Welcome to another episode of DevOps Diaries with me, your host, Jack McCurdy. And today I am joined by Dangsen Nokshuwan. Dangsen, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Jack. It's really great to be here with you today. Hello, everyone.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you, Dangsen. I'm really excited to talk to you. Every interaction that I've had with you over the past kind of 6 months or so, we've seen a lot of each other, and you have an amazing Salesforce journey. So I'm looking forward to getting stuck into some of that and allowing the listeners to learn from that journey of yours. So I really appreciate you coming onto the podcast.
Thank you for having me, and I look forward to sharing.
Yeah, of course. Dangsen, for the listeners, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, like who you are and what you currently do in the Salesforce ecosystem.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dangsen Nokshuwan. Sometimes people call me Dangsenpenan. Sometimes people call me Dang. Sometimes people call me Dangsen. So anyone works for me. I work as a Salesforce analyst with the RSPCA here in the UK. And it has been like an interesting journey for me. I think sometimes people just ask me, "Oh, what do you do?" I just tell them I'm a Salesforce analyst, as simple as that. And they ask me, "Oh, what about anything else?" I'll be like, "Oh, I run a community, so I also organize a conference in West Africa called West Africa Dreaming." And I have been actively engaged within the West African Trailblazer community for the past couple of years now. So it's what I do.
Amazing. And I would add to that, you bring joy wherever you go, to be honest. The joy and happiness that you bring to people is amazing.
People say my smile has a way, so I'm like, okay, maybe that's one of the gifts that I got. So
Uh, Absolutely. And anybody that's listening to the audio version of this podcast rather than the video podcast on YouTube, go and watch it on YouTube and see that smile that Dangsen's
yeah, if
talking
you
about,
want to
because it is
see that
awesome.
smile that everybody is talking about, please do go watch the video.
Absolutely. Dangsen, how did you get into Salesforce? It's a unique journey for everybody. What's yours?
So it's interesting when I tell people that my journey was not really a straightforward one. So my background was within the humanities kind of sector. My first degree was in English language and literature. I love literature, and I always thought that I would be an academic. I would go into academia, and that has just been it for me, like in terms of it. But one of the key things for me, like within that particular space, was that I grew up a very, very curious person, and I love to challenge myself and to learn new things. And because I was very good with people, and it kind of led me into a career with as a project manager within the telecom space. So I got the opportunity to work for Main One Cable, currently called Equinix, as part of the project management team, and it was that was my first experience with Salesforce because I came in as a user. What's this thing? You understand? And it was interesting that we had a bit of like data issues on our system, and I was one of those people that was put in terms of to look at the data and to duplicate, clean the data on the system. And being the curious person that I am, I had to go and to do a little bit of research to understand the system better. How can I make my work easier with this particular project? And I started learning. I started self-teaching myself, self-learning, because I think talking about like getting into the ecosystem from Nigeria back then, it was really tough. We all know how expensive it can be to learn a new technology, and it was really, really expensive, and I couldn't afford. And most of the training providers were like mostly within Europe, America, and I couldn't keep up. So I had to start self-learning before I got the opportunities to be sponsored under a program by an entity called Oxfordable Carriers. And they took me through my journey, and I learned and I kept on learning. And when I moved to the UK, I had the opportunity to work with Lankan Consulting firm here, which is a very tiny partner here working majorly within the nonprofits. And I think that's how I got myself into the nonprofit space. And ever since from that experience, it has not been the same. I've not wanted to leave the nonprofit. And it's really beautiful that I find myself doing the work that I'm doing within the RSPCA. It keeps me smiling. So that's the key to this beautiful smile every day.
Ah, it's such a beautiful story. Can you tell me a little bit about how you approached self-learning? You didn't have those opportunities. You mentioned courses being expensive. For you, what was for anybody that might be in a similar position to level up your career and carry on learning new things? What was the approach that you took to that self-learning, and what are the keys to success and staying motivated?
I think for me, the first approach I did was to start speaking with the people around me. I remember that's one of the things, because sometimes you find yourself and you feel like you're on an island, you understand, but it's not really so, because the people around you might be like the first step towards where you're trying to get to. And I remember I sat down and I had a conversation with my manager then, and she was like, "Oh, there was this classmate of hers when she was back in the UK who does Salesforce." And she was like, "Let me set up an introduction for you and him." And when she set up that particular introduction, that was like the first opportunity for me to go on a platform and see people learn like the technology and to understand what the ecosystem actually meant, that there was actually an ecosystem outside of the system that I was just seeing on a day to day. And it opened my mind to be like, oh, this thing is much more bigger, and there are people putting in the time and the effort into it. So you feel like you're not necessarily alone. But which then brings me to the perspective that when I went into that space, that would have been a very, very good opportunity to succeed. But because I was working in Lagos and I would close from work, deal with a lot of people might not know Lagos is one of the bustling like economic capitals in Nigeria, the bustling city, and has a lot of traffic. So when I close work, I would go through traffic, get home, try to sort out, get a meal, you understand? And because of the time zone, I would need to attend those classes around between 12 or 1 midnight to around 3 before I would take a nap, because I wouldn't call it
Wow.
sleep. It was like taking a nap. And then I would have to wake up around 5, 6 again to beat traffic to get to work. So it was a lot, and it started to affect me in terms of my productivity, and I couldn't keep up, so I had to drop off out of that program. And that's one of the lessons I like to talk about with people. It's sometimes when you start, you understand, you will find yourself being discouraged and dropping off, but the key thing is that don't stay down, pick yourself up and go back into it. So that's what I did, from like speaking with my manager from that first opportunity. Then I was like, let me speak with some of the friends that I know, and one of them was like, oh, okay, he also is on a course at the moment, and it's being sponsored by this particular person who is from the same place that we were from. You understand? And he was like, let me set up an introduction to you. And he set up an introduction to me with the partners at Oxfordable Careers. And they had a sit down with me. They saw I had the passion, I had the zeal to take it up and to go into it. They were like, we would do this for you. Come on the course and start learning. And they gave in and poured into me. And it was that perspective of someone believing in me to be able to give me that particular opportunity to learn for free kept me going. But some days it becomes very, very tough. You understand? And I would feel like I'm not technical. I didn't understand even how computers work. But the thing was that I went back to the basic principle again to be like, okay, I have another friend here who has a background in computer science. I had to keep on messaging him all the time and leaning into him. And he became my accountability partner. and it helped me to stay consistent. So I remember when I wrote my admin cert, he came to my house after we prepared for 2 weeks together, going out studying all the time together. He came to my house and went upstairs and wrote his exams. I went first, wrote and passed, and came down, and he went to the same room, wrote his exams and passed. And it was really, really like motivational for me to I was motivated knowing that I was not alone on that journey, but there were people that have invested in me. There's someone that I am holding myself accountable to. So it was nice to just keep going and keep supporting each other on that journey.
Yeah, like that's such an amazing lesson in that shared accountability is great. And I love what you said about feeling like you're on an island, but you're not on an island. You reach out, you have a support network there, and you just have to reach out. You just have to ask. You say who's on this journey with me, or who might be in a similar journey. Asking those questions and it, having that motivation to succeed. What would be your advice to other people looking for an accountability partner in their learning and on their journeys? I feel like I'm thinking now it's just like I need to go out and find an accountability partner to help carry on making me successful.
I think that's the interesting thing, because at that moment, right, when I started, I felt like I was alone until I found Godfrey, who became my accountability partner. But much later, when we started to build up and we were in the ecosystem and we started to be like, okay, let's build a community, we found out that there were other people who were also running that journey at the same time as us, but we didn't know we were there. You understand? So you need to be able to put yourself out there to be seen and to be able to be in the right places to see others and to follow other stories. And I think I like to think myself as a very, very quiet person. I'm a very laid back person, of which a lot of people find it hard to reconcile, because how do you run a community and you're a very laid back and quiet person? But that's really my personality. But I had to teach myself to be like, okay, I have to reach out to this person. I have to say that hello. And the hardest thing is to make that first step. You understand? There are people out there, people willing to support you, people willing to give you advice, people willing to sponsor you on your journey. You understand? But you need to be able to put yourself and position yourself where they will be able to see you, and for you to be ready for the help, kind of help that they will be open to offer unto you. You understand? And that's one of the things I'm like, in terms of finding accountability partners as well, I believe that it's supposed to be symbiotic, even, you understand, in the sense of it. It's not just about falling back to Godfrey all the time to be like, oh, can you teach me this? I have an issue with this. This is what I'm supposed to do. Can you check up with me on this time? But I was also checking up with him, you understand, to be like, okay, outside of the technical side, I am a bit more business kind of, I understood the business side of things a bit more, you understand? So I would take up and be like, how do I explain this to you? You understand? How do I break down this thing to you? How do I give him advice as well on how to like put himself out there? You understand? And some of it, like about putting ourselves out there, we were learning both of us at the same time, but we didn't feel lonely because we were doing that journey together. So it was a lot more easier for us to like navigate the whole of that, knowing that we had each other's back. And interestingly, we still keep in touch till today. And
That's
yeah,
awesome.
he always reaches out to advise me, especially to be like, oh, can you join me in the very technical side of things? And I'm like, okay, I'm on my way.
That's great. That I love that word, like symbiotic, and it's my experience that a lot of people don't realize the value that they have through their own experiences and that they're able to share with others, even when they think they don't. Everybody has a wealth of experience that they can share with others, and it's not having an accountability partner isn't about just taking from them or receiving from them. It's giving back as well, which is such an important part of that relationship. And speaking of giving back, tell me about the community that you started to create in Nigeria and elsewhere.
Yeah, so I think that's like a huge part of me, and I love to talk a lot about that. They've become a part of me that every day in my sleep, I'm just thinking about the community all the time. I would come back to that, but I think the origin of that was like start dates back to the beginning of like how I started and being really lost on that journey. I think at the beginning, I knew how tough it was for me. You understand? And it was really, really difficult. And some days you would wake up and be like, is this worth it? You understand what's really happening? And even understanding like how massive the community is, and even the whole idea of Ohana and the support that is available out there, those were some of the things that we didn't understand at that particular point in time. So I really struggled. And that's one of the things. In terms of talking about struggling, a Salesforce certification is $200, right? And
Yeah.
it's more than the minimum wage where I was back then. Uh,
Oh my God, I didn't
yeah.
know that. Wow.
So it took me, I saved more than my 1 month salary an extra by it to be able to afford to write the certification. And it was a big
Wow.
sacrifice. It was a very big sacrifice. And I think when I moved out of that space, I started to understand how massive the community is, and like how there are support to like community groups in terms of supporting with people with vouchers to write certification programs, enablement programs that people can attend, get certification vouchers, programs that are being run for free for people to learn to build hands-on, the likes of those things. I didn't know about it. I think which falls back to so when I first came to the UK, the first experience I had within the ecosystem was working for an entity that was like building the talent base within the ecosystem in West Africa, then Askia Tech, and we did an implementation for them. And I was a project manager on that particular project, but I'm always curious. I wanted to get my hands dirty, so I found a way to like go into the org and touch a bit of things and to like learn more of the ropes of like actually managing the system. You understand? But it offered me the opportunity to meet people from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Liberia, from Sierra Leone on my team. You understand? And I was like, okay, it's not just within the same place as me. And around the same time, I had moved to the UK and I went to the Salesforce Tower, and it was massive. I was like, wow. What's happening here? You understand? And I started to hear more stories of things that are happening. And I went to the world tour, and that was the biggest eye-opening moment. Thousands of people, thousands of us just walking down at the Excel Center. And I was like,
What year was that?
this was in 2023.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
okay.
quite
Yeah.
recent, right? This was in
Yeah.
2023. And when I had that particular experience, one of the things that was really eye-opening for me was that the idea of like that global stage was not looking so far away from me anymore. It was like, okay, I was there, and all the names that I was seeing on LinkedIn, online, like all the major contents, I'm like, these are the people. I can see them. I like, if I go to you, I would say hello and have a
They're real.
you understand? Like this, it became much more accessible. So I think that's where one of the key vision that came to my mind was like, you understand, our community can only dream as big as they are able to see. You understand? And the only way for
Oh,
you
what a
to be
quote.
able to dream that big is when you relate with people that are on that global stage. If you cannot be on that global stage, people that have been there, people that are at the center of those conversations. And that's why we started the community, to reconcile the idea of West Africa dreaming, being like, okay, all these guys that I've worked with, come. why don't we start a conference? None of our community members can afford to go to Dreamforce. You understand? None of our community members can
Yeah.
afford to go to the world tour. You understand? Within that space. And I was like, let's bring it to them. You understand? And we went on and we had that conversation. And I think talking about that, it was really eye-opening for me, because when I was having the conversation with some of the people, they didn't even understand. Some of them in their minds thought that, oh, okay, I was just organizing like a meet and greet or a get together. You understand? Because we've never had a conference within that particular space. Interestingly, none within the sub-Saharan African region. By then, the only two conferences that had happened in Africa was Cairo Dreaming and North Africa Dreaming. Do you understand? And like it foiled me to understand that there's a big need for this, because I was the only one that really saw the vision, because I've been on that stage and I had to find a way to translate that vision to the team that I was working with to deliver that conference. And I think interestingly for us, for our first conference last year in Nigeria, we had well over 250 people, about 300 people down with us with the team in Lagos, and it was really massive. It was the first time that the team had people and speakers from all over the world come share their experience and had the feel of what
Incredible.
it means to be on a stage where you can experience and like see what it feels like to be at the World Tour. It's not at the same level, but you are seeing a version of it. You understand? And people are starting to have conversations with people that came from America, from the UK, from Australia, from Canada, and people got mentors who took them up and have been guiding them through. And it's been really great. I think off the top of that, I think I came back, and I think that's one of the things within the work I do at the RSPCA. I always love the RSPCA. Is my managers, they find a way to really support me, because in my one-to-ones, those are some of the things they ask me. Okay, what's your vision with what you are doing? How can you think things more strategic? You understand? And I remember I would have those conversations with my managers, and she would advise me about that. You understand? And I had to go back, redesign and rethink how it was tough for me to learn. You understand? It was tough for me to build hands-on experience within the community. How can I leverage on the success of that last year's event to bring more opportunities? And I think lucky enough, one of the persons who came for down to the conference last year was the person that my manager had introduced me to when I started in Lagos, but I couldn't continue from in Canada. So when he was there and he saw how massive it had gotten, he didn't know that there was such a massive talent pool and community within the space there. I was like, guy, come, let's have a conversation. I'm giving 100 members of your community this slot, you understand, to be able to learn either development, business analysis, data analysis, project management, consultancy skills, as well as DevOps and AI. So we ran that program for 6 months. I think they were just rounding up some parts of that at the moment, but I am seeing the community grow, and it just keeps me going every time. And I'm just so passionate about like the community. They just keep me going every time. They're like, Dangsen, you can't stop at this moment. So it's their words that really just keep me going at the moment.
Yeah, your passion is like palpable, and your commitment to that. And one of one of one of the things that I'm really taking from your experience is that what you said about you can only dream as big as you can see. You've not just seen it and looked at the possibilities and have imagined for yourself what the possibilities you can be.
Yeah.
You've instantly taken that back and are giving that back to your community and your home in West Africa. And that's such a beautiful and amazing thing. It's interesting that you mentioned as well, like the community that has come to support West Africa. So you mentioned folks from America, Canada, UK, Australia. What has the wider response from the Salesforce community in those spaces been like to you and your community that you started to build at home and now in the UK too?
I think That's quite interesting because it's something that I have been thinking about like for the most part of the weekend. You understand? Because when we started West Africa Dreaming last year, a lot of people did not see the vision of it because like there's a perception of Africa that different people have, you understand, and don't really understand how far we are, the talent pool we have, you understand, and the feasibility of what exists within that particular space. So oftentimes when you have conversations with people, a lot of people that really imbibe the spirit of Ohana. I remember when I had that first conversation, I would reach out to the shout out to the likes of Tunde, who would always jump on a call with me. I would message him at 2 a.m. He would respond, you understand, and the likes of Bamnan from D Cloud, who came in and was like, oh, let's make this happen, you understand, and we're open to like build up and to pull out resources for us to achieve this. And one of the key things that I would say is that some people did not key into the vision at that moment because they didn't see the reality of it, but I understood it, you understand, because we were building off of nothing. You understand? There was no precedence, you understand, of what to do. So I remember back then when we were building like the sponsor deck and people were like, oh, the design, I was like, where are the pictures? I'm like, oh, there are no pictures. There's no statistics to show from last year. Everything is like from ground zero. You understand? And those are some of the things. So I remember one of like the most motivating thing, and I would love to share a highlight on this is when I reached.
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah, I would love to give a highlight to the guys at Form Titan. We went on a meeting with them. They only got to find out about the conference a month to the conference, you understand? And they were like, oh, they've not planned for it already. They are like, because of what you're doing, we really believe in the vision of what you're doing, would still support you in our little way before we take up the conversation. And they still came on. It was not like a full-fledged sponsorship, but they still sponsored, not as big as they would have wanted to within that month notice. And by then we were struggling to pull out funds to run the whole conference in its sense. You understand? And I remember at some point I will feel like giving up. But I went on a call, one call that changed my perspective till today. I went on a call with Sharif Shala. I was like, oh, okay.
Sharif Shalan.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
went on a call with Sharif Shala, and he was a conference organizer himself. You understand? And we sat down. He always looks at you, sit down, looks at you, very quiet, gentle person. And he jumped on board with his company to sponsor my event. I was like, wow. And he didn't just jump on board with his company to sponsor my event. He reached out to two other of his partners as well who came on board. So that's where I got to meet the superb Stan Peabody, who has come to become a brother and a friend. Subsequently, he was with us down there in Lagos. He came and sponsored the event as well under his own consulting firm, as well as Mofata from the US as well, who is also the co-organizer of Cairo Dreaming. They came and they keyed into my vision because they understood like what it really meant for the community. Whereas, in between all of those beautiful stories of support and everything, right, with the likes of Oxfordable who sponsored me, who came on board and be like, okay, you are a product of us, would sponsor your event this year, you understand, and all of that. There was a lot of like of ghosting, a lot of reaching out, and a lot of
Yeah.
non-response, you understand, and those are some of the things. This I just speaking out about the ecosystem, you understand, it's bigger than just Europe. It's bigger than just America. There's a lot of things happening on smaller communities across Africa, across other parts of Asia as well, and across other continents, you understand? And we really need to shine light on what's happening on there, and we really need more people to come and key into those particular vision to see how we can lift up and support that community. And I think that has been like the push for us. I think we run the whole conference as a non-profit. and because I work within the non-profit space, just keyed into like the non-profit idea, and I registered everything as a non-profit. And I think it has molded itself and built itself, you understand, for us to start to see how we can support the community beyond just like in terms of just the Salesforce knowledge, you understand. So now we are having conversations, for example, supporting people that want to go into like data analysis, people that want to go into project management, whatever the skill is, we give you the opportunity and introduce you to the right people to mentor you, you understand, and you decide how you want to bring it into the ecosystem and how you want to support it with the community. And it's been really great. That's just one angle speaking about the sponsors. Don't mind me, I like to talk too much.
Yeah. No, no,
um,
you can't talk too much, and everything that you're sharing is so important. Like you mentioned like a talent pool, and this talent pool that exists in West Africa because you had the vision to start creating it and tapping into the connections that you made and have made and continue to make. You know, you're one of these people that I see at events, and you're always talking to people and always talking to people about your vision, the community in West Africa. And when I speak to you, when I listen to you, it really highlights that there are no borders to technology.
no,
There might be country borders, continental borders, whatever it means, but technology we need to make technology accessible across those artificial lines in the sand, if you will. Technology translates everywhere,
exactly.
and bringing that opportunity to those communities that, you know, traditionally aren't seen as those tech communities. But you're saying we have a massive tech hub in Lagos, in other areas too. We need to do our best to lift up those communities and shine a light on those communities and the level of support that those communities are able to
Yeah.
provide. We need to give back and invest in those places too, so that everybody can rise up.
I think interestingly, when you talk about that, you understand. I think I just wanted to just highlight something and to just build up on that, because when we came, right, there was not that side that like um that really it wasn't, the community was really scattered, but now we have started to discover people, you understand, that have been doing great work, that have been within the ecosystem much longer than myself, you understand. So I would go out and speak with people. I would be like, oh, I've been a Salesforce developer for 5 6 years, and I'm like, oh, okay, how long have you been? And when I tell them I'm only 3 years in, be like, how have you come in, you understand, and done this much within the time frame? But it's because everybody has felt like they were alone at that moment, you understand, and we've not really explored it in the sense of the community. But it's nice to see that at the moment we have like a lot of our community members building a lot of specialism around MuleSoft, around DevOps as well. You understand, people within the functional side, consultants, product managers, project managers, business and analysts, you understand, and all of those people with specialisms in Slack, Marketing Cloud, and all of those other core technologies. The specialisms are building. And I think it's beautiful to talk, because at the moment we are building the whole of like our conference management entity, and from like everything that we've built with relation to the nonprofit and the conference, all is being done by members of the community, being like, oh, I want to volunteer a couple of hours today to do something. I want to volunteer this one. And I have a line of people offering to volunteer, and I'm looking, okay, where can I get the opportunity to put this one to give us their some of the knowledge that they have and their expertise in terms of supporting the community. It's really great. But also, right, we have partners at the moment that are starting to key into the vision and putting in large investments within the West African space to be like, we're building a tech hub here, you understand, where trailblazers can be able to come and sit down and learn and to do their work, you understand. There's access to light, there's access to internet, no connectivity issues. I think shout out to the guys at the Just Innovation Hub who have built one there, and the guys at the YDEF who have built another one in Lagos, and the ALX entity as well in Ghana. You understand? Those entities are starting to pop up. You understand? And when you speak with people, they'll be like, oh, there is no light and internet in Africa. I'll be like, oh no, we have all of those things. We are building the infrastructure for the community to succeed. But you need to come down, come and see it, come and engage with it and see what we have down there. And those are some of the things we are trying to really tell our story in clear terms of what it is. I think maybe the literature background I have is still there for me because I believe like heavily, if you don't tell your story, nobody will know about it.
Yeah, and a beautiful story it is, just in perseverance and commitment. And the thing that stands out for me is that on your journey, from the very beginning of your journey, you've been giving back from day one. Like even from the first step is, I've taken this first step, let's send that backwards. And every step that you take successively, you're sending more and more back. But you've done that from day one. It's not that you've taken the approach of, I need to get to a certain point before I give back. It's, I've started this journey. I've started giving back as soon as that journey starts, and teaching people and bringing people along with you. I think that's such a commendable thing and such a beautiful thing that you've done for your communities across continents, not just in West Africa, but here in the UK too. Something that I wanted to talk about, because you mentioned it a couple of times already, is non-profit.
Yeah,
You love non-profit.
I do.
What makes non-profit special?
I think when I went into the nonprofit space, you understand, just being able to take yourself outside of the profits and margin. You understand? It's interesting because it's non-profit. You understand? The focus is not just about selling. You understand? Meeting quotas and making deals. You understand? It's much more human focused. You understand, in the sense of it, and it has transformed my perspective of life to, because oftentimes we focus heavily on the money making side of it and leave like the human side of it, you understand, but that's not
Yeah.
really the case. And those are some of the things that the non-profits are able to bring out, those deep sides of you understand. So for example, in every bit of work across all the nonprofits I've worked with, every day I go in there and I am seeing people being selfless and putting in their time, putting in their resources to support different causes. And I'm like, that's the beauty of life. You understand? I have been asked this question, like, if I have a superpower, what would it be? And I sat down and I was thinking, I would love to fly. You understand? And people ask me, why would you love to fly? And I tell them I would love to fly just to see how massive the world is and to know that it's bigger than me as an entity, and that in everything I do, you understand, I should not just think within myself, like just being as a self. You understand? I should think about the world as massive as it is, not necessarily within just a myself perspective. And it's been really interesting. So, for example, talking about the work we do at the RSPCA, we are an animal welfare charity, and I grew up in a place where we didn't really have the culture of really thinking about the sentience of animals, you understand, and really providing ways to avoid cruelty to animals and ensuring that animals alike, you understand, we treat animal better, you understand, within that particular space. But one of the things that was really profound for me was that one of the things that we used to say back home in Nigeria was that the way you can know the habit of someone from the way they treat their animals. Even though we are not like heavily investing into that particular space to be like, okay, this is what we are investing into, but we have those kind of culture embedded in our day to day to be like, okay, if someone treats an animal badly, that's the same way the person will treat a human being. So we deep down understand the idea of animal sentience, you understand, but I had never thought about it from that particular perspective until when I joined the RSPCA and I was doing that work. And when I think about the stakeholders in terms of the work that I'm doing, it's my colleagues, it's the supporters of the work that we are doing with that space. And on the other hand, it's also the animals, because like the animals that we deal with are also stakeholders in what we are doing. So even within the system work, when I come to like the Salesforce platform and I think about, okay, whatever we are building within this particular space, we need to do it to improve the outcome of the animals. That's the major thing, because at the time of it, they are our primary stakeholder, customer in terms of it. You understand? So it really transformed my life. It takes your thinking out there. You understand? And I think one of the things that I really appreciate heavily about the nonprofit is that it gets you thinking quite heavily. So, and it complements what I am doing with the community as well. Because like every time I think within the RSPCA, we talk about like a charity day, about like volunteering and all of those things. And I'm like, okay, practically my day to day, I'm volunteering. And Tunde would often tell me that, oh, Dangsen, you are running an organization without without the official title of an organization, you understand? But when I think about it, you understand, I would sit down and I remember the other day, sometimes I message him as early as 5, 6 a.m. and he would be like, oh, what's doing this one that he's messaging me? But he always provides the time to speak with me, and we had to sit down and I would always share my ideas with him to be like, okay, like within we've done so much work and there's so much to do within the work that we are doing within the West Africa Dreaming community, but we also owe it to ourselves to also build from the foundation. So the charity is called the Tech Trailblazers Community Foundation. You understand, to see how we can start to engage with young people from universities that are interested in the technology space. Because I was thinking about it, to be like, let's say for example, now if Jack, you pick up someone I identify and like train, let's say for example we pick up 5 people, young people within the university space, excellent students who are interested to become DevOps like professionals in the future, right? And we come to you, you understand, we provide them training to understand how work life is, how to build their brand, how to build their entity, and how to like get into that particular space. And you take maybe 1 or 2 of them as your mentees for a year or two, or all through the rest of their particular university years. Let's say they're in year 2, you run them through 2 to 3 years. You understand? All through that journey, they would come out different and they'll be able to dream big to get to where you are, because they were not looking at the world just from the perspective of where they are in Africa, but they were looking at the world. When they speak with you, they would look at the world from the perspective of how you speak to them. So let's say, for example, today you are in America, you're in Philly, and you be like, you're having a conversation, and be like, oh, I'm in Philly. Be like, oh, I can be in Philly too. You understand? And you're in Australia
Yeah.
another day, and I'm like, I was in Australia. So you understand that idea of the border starts to blow off in their minds, and it becomes attainable, and it builds over time. And those are some of the things that we're trying to have conversations to see how we can bring, to see a way that we can bring the global vision, the global world to students early on within the university space, so that the idea of working for Gearset does not seem so far away. The idea of working for Google does not seem so far away. You understand? And all of those things. So it's one of those conversations that we are hoping and we would start to roll out in the coming months. Let's step down on like planning for the conference this year, and we would lean deep into that. But it's something that we really want to expand on that entity and the work we are doing within that space.
Yeah. Oh, all right. So talking to you is so refreshing, like your view of the world and not just technology, but global community is so valuable. And It's for like kind of closing comments, like I guess from you, I'm really interested in your perspective, just to touch on like broader community. If you were to sum it up, like what does community mean to you? What is the core central part of community, and how how do people show up? How should people show up?
I think there are different phases to that, right? I think from community for me is like it's not just like the direct entity next to you. You understand? So community can be like the people that you interact with. And within the digital age, you understand the idea of community has changed. You understand? So previously, when, let's say before the digital age, when you talk about community, you would just think about, oh, it might be my school community. You understand? The people that live on the same block as me. You understand? People that I might meet in church, people that I might meet wherever I go to. You understand? That's my community. You understand? But it has changed. You understand? The digital age has taken away those maps, and it allows us to be able to have a global community. But still, I think the human mind will still is still trying to block us from that particular kind of thinking. You understand? Because it's trying to limit us to just think about it from the concept of what we've been thinking of. But for me, it's beyond that. You understand? Community is wherever or whatever cause you understand that you feel passionate about, that you feel you can be able to contribute towards building, you understand, and you are ready to put in your time, to put in your money, to put in your effort into, you understand, that's your community. Something that you find yourself thinking about all the time, you understand, that's your community, you understand, and you should be open to put uh, everything down to ensure that you enable that community to be able to grow. And oftentimes people feel like I'm not big enough and I've not gotten to the point to be able to contribute to that community to be able to grow. And I tell them it's not really so. I'm not like the most I'm not the most like the I'm not the oldest person out of the people I interact with within my community. I find myself often often the youngest person in the room in wherever I find myself. So it's not about age. I'm only 3 years within the ecosystem, so it's not about how long you've been within that particular space for you to be able to make a change. You understand within that particular entity, but it's all about having the heart to do it. So interestingly, when you think about it, you'll be like, oh, okay, you might be a shy person. I am shy. You understand? I like to be in the background, but I like to coordinate and make things work. You understand? And I understand people. And I understand the value of people. I understand the value of my community, and I can identify the key people, and even without my face needing to show all the time, we can make things happen. We planned for the whole of West Africa dreaming. I had not gone down to Nigeria. I only went down to Nigeria 3 days to the conference. I would say 2 days because I arrived late evening, you understand, to the conference, you understand. And 95% of my team, I had never met them physically. I had never
Wow.
met them physically. And we went in, all of them, we were meeting each other for the first time. We're like, oh, I thought you were taller. Oh, I thought you were, you understand? And all of those things. And you're like, oh, okay, I've worked with these people for over this years, you understand? And I've never met them in person, you understand? And it takes, so for example, let me draw something into perspective, you understand? One of the big voices within the African like trailblazer community is Jennifer, and her story is like has been inspiring for members of the community because she's very visible, and she has supported, and I have partnered with her over the years. I started Salesforce, learning Salesforce the same time as Jennifer in 2022. You understand? And Jennifer is one of those people that has told her story and has been accessible to all the members of the community to support everyone throughout the journey. And I think interestingly, a lot of people will be like, oh, you can't be in Africa, you understand, and work for another entity elsewhere. But I'm like, it's not true. Jennifer's not never worked for an African consulting partner, you understand. It's all about the perception. It's because people have had a conversation with her and they see the value that she knows what she's doing, you understand. But if you don't put your if you don't avail yourself to be able to engage with the community, you wouldn't be able to understand them. So be available as well to be used by the community and for you to contribute for the community. And I think one, it's always so inspiring when I'm like, I started the same time with Jennifer, and I remember I went back on LinkedIn and I saw that I had sent her a message in 2022. I was still in Lagos, Nigeria, and I was like, oh, hello, Jennifer. I'm in this journey, same thing as you, but I'm a very, very quiet person. I've not been able to put myself out there on LinkedIn, but just know that we see you, what you're doing, and we are rooting for you. The message is still there on my LinkedIn, you understand? And ever since, like, she just responded. She said it meant a lot to her, and we've not spoken since then until we came and started planning for the conference last year. And she came down to Nigeria, you understand, and I had to ensure, you understand, that she was there. She spoke with the community and engaged with us. And ever since, we've been supporting each other, trying to bring her closer with what we're doing, and then supporting the work that they are doing with the African Ohana community that they set up as well. You understand? But the thing is that I don't see myself that I need to be big to be able to contribute. Instead of thinking too much, just do. That's the first thing. You understand? You don't need to. Most of, like, for example, I was looking at the list of most of the other conference organizers, and I'm like, oh, I've not seen anyone that is only 3 years in the ecosystem like myself. So I felt a little bit intimidated. But when I started to sit down with the likes of Tiffany and hear their stories, they started small, you understand? And it gave me the motivation to keep going, you understand? And just start. That's the major thing. And if you don't know where to start from, reach out to me. We'll get you going.
Yeah. Um, I, yeah, just start is such a big message. Like you mentioned one of your the superpower that you wish you had was to be able to fly. And speaking to you, and I think many of the people that have listened to this episode of the podcast would tell you you are already flying. You say that you wish you could fly, you are flying, my friends. Like you are soaring higher than even you think you are, and that humility and the passion that you have for this community and your community is palpable. And I think you see things from a 30,000-foot view already. So you're already flying, my friend. And you couple it with that smile and the energy that you bring. I mean, you are unstoppable, and you're such a force for good. And
Yeah,
I think all of us can be very grateful
I think,
to have listened to your experience.
yeah, it's been really, I think one of the key things that I would say is that I've only been able to get to where I am because, like, of the strides of other people. And like I always say, I always write on the shoulders of other people as well. The likes of you, the likes of Sharif, Tunde, Stephanie, Gilda, you understand, Nell, Sanbeat, and the rest of them, my team down there in Africa, they are holding it down for us right now. And as we plan towards the conference this year, but I couldn't have been able to do it myself. And like all that we've been able to achieve is just because of the people that we have around us, you understand? And I want to say a big shout out to you and all that you're doing within the community itself.
Thank you, thank you. I'm really touched. That means a lot coming from you. But like I can't thank you enough for coming on this podcast and sharing your journey with people. And hopefully people are inspired and encouraged. And I would encourage everybody that's listened to this to reach out to you and see how they can help you and help continuing to build all the amazing things that you're helping build. And if there is anything that I can do personally for you and your community, mentorship, whatever it might be, then please reach out to me and let me know how I can support you, because I would love to do that. And you're a wonderful human being.
Thank you very much. And it's been really great. I would definitely take you up when we come to finalize that. I believe there'll be a couple of young people from Africa that would be looking to have the Jack kind of mentorship into DevOps. You understand? And would definitely take you up on that, as I think very much, we are a very small community. We are growing up and we're running. We need all the support that we could possibly get. If anybody wants to reach out to have a chat about what's happening down there, if you want to know and understand the business landscape of Africa, and you want to understand what's just happening within down there, reach out to us. We know the stories, and we'll take you through them. And my degree is still in place, so I'm still a storyteller. So I'll definitely tell you the story as it is.
Perfect. Dangsen, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you in London in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to seeing you all. See you all in London. Let's have fun together. It's gonna be eventful in June, so.
For sure. Dangsen, thank you so much. And listeners, thank you for listening to this episode of DevOps Diaries. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe on whichever platform you are listening. And I will catch you on another episode sometime soon. Dangsen, thank you so much.
Yes.